So your boy survived a hurricane like he was a Wind Rider Bramblegast. Feels good. What's poppin', people? Nah, but for real, we're good around here. The only hang up at this point for our household personally is our power is still not returned. Now you may be wondering, how am I recording? You have no power. Well, through the ingenuity called generator. And somehow our internet didn't go out, which I thought was crazy, but I ain't gonna complain. So uploads hopefully will be back to relatively normal. Gonna have to work around the generator's availability, so I still don't really know what it's gonna be like, but thanks for being patient with me. Today, I got you some more SCL. This time we're looking at UU Week 4. Not all the games, but 4 of them, because I want y'all to recognize the trend. Do y'all see all this hype? You'll see nothing here. All of this hyper offense, dude, what is happening? All these people last week were like, you know what? I really like to bring HO. Nothing else, just hyper offense. And oh my god, do they get punished? You'll know what I mean, but before we get too far into it, subscribe if you have not yet already. You like daily uploads? You like competitive content that varies in quality from amazing to kind of dire? Stick around. Join for the promise of high-level gameplay, but stick around for the vibes. That's kind of the motto we're adopting around here. So game 1, Sablo versus Scarf. I believe Scarf Serum has been starting the entire tournament. Sablo normally plays OU, I believe, in these types of tournaments. Maybe I don't know, I might be speaking out of my ass, but I know Sablo is more of an OUer that has dabbled in some lower tiers, particularly NU. They were around in SS. And they loaded up like one of the most standard hyper offenses you can get. Like this is it's a solid team, right? You're gonna have lead, booster speed, shocks, calm mind, comfy. Usually these are like sword stance with trailblaze, because when this mon gets fast, it's really hard. Revavroom, shift gear with an air balloon. We've seen a lot of Revavroom lately. Even after shifts, people are still loving Revavroom, so I'm gonna be real. Are you? You may finally be saved from the unwillingness of your higher player base to ban this mon. If you hate Revavroom, rest assured, it may end up just going to UU. And here's the disclaimer, I don't actually know if Revavroom's broken in RU. I just know that it's been at the top of that tier for quite some time. And at points has gotten, complaints. And he got the Manaphy with Tail Gun, and he got booster speed, workup, Iron Jugulus. And when I watched this replay at first, looking at preview, my immediate thoughts were, wow, I think Scarf's about to get blasted, because this is one of the best matchups I think you can load. And just in terms of like the sweepers and their at preview matchup, I think you actually have a lot going well for you, right? Like Jugulus. It's not that this mon just 6-0s, but it's going to be able to make really good progress. We can Tinkaton, open things up for Comfy, and to an extent Revavroom, I suppose. I mean, this mon can technically threaten you with like a T-Wave. It's annoying, like if it's Balloon, you can't high horsepower it. You have to have Temper Flare. They don't always have Temper Flare. There's some stuff going on there. Manaphy. Manaphy looks like it just dogs this team. If it's Tail Go 3 attacks with Ice Beam, it looks really hard to stop. You just have to hope this mon is at full the whole game, or that you force something else to Terra as well. It's kind of part of it. Maybe hope that Hoopa can Terra Dark and slam it. I think Revavroom looks pretty solid too, though y'all know my experiences with Revavroom. Cornerstone looks also pretty good. It's just kind of, again, the whole idea of Tinkaton. Gotta get through that, but this team can certainly work to overwhelm Tinkaton with the other members. And then Comfy just looks nigh unstoppable. You gotta play around this thing Terra Grassing. You're not gonna Oko it with +1 Draining Kiss, so you need to find Chip, or you need to force something else to Terra, which that may be a little hard. I think forcing anything but Ogerpon to Terra in this type of game is actually probably the hard part. There's a lot of incentive from Scarf here to Terra the Ogerpon, because it's gonna give you the speed boost, and it's gonna also let you just wump a lot of things on your team if you're Sablo. So as we get into this game, Shock's always going to be the lead pretty much. You're just going to try to get your hazards up. Technically, if Scarf wants to, they could literally go for their Terra turn 1. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that, other than it being arguably poor resource management. And you have to ask yourself, if you're Scarf, do you really care that rocks are going up? This mon dies to Cudgel almost 100% of the time anyway, without the need for Terra. And potentially based on set, 100% of the time, because Ogerpon is not boots. I've seen a couple of these run through SCL. I've just not been able to figure out what the item is. I don't know if it's like banded, or Scarf or Miracle Seed or some like muscle band. I don't know, but we do see this get the Cudgel and God. If this was Boots, I was shouting at the top of my lungs, Jim, like, oh my god, just Encore. This thing's always going for workup. Unfortunately, they switch. Also, we know it wasn't Scarf, by the way, because it was slower than this, but just as like a general aside, you know, comment about, hey, I've seen non-Boots. I wonder if some of them are Scarf. Scarf sounds terrible, but, you know, it's probably always Bandit. I don't know why I'm indicating Scarf. Regardless, I was originally saying, oh my god, Encore here, dude, it'd be so good. So if I was playing a Scarf's team, I always hacked in Encore and got to use it there. We did see Chug Jugulus try to just 1v1 this Hoopa to the ends of the earth, as it gets a flinch into a crit there. Very, very nice for Sablo, of course, to try and break through Hoopa like that. Eats the gunk as well here without getting poisoned, which is just, you know, nice. Forcing Scarf as well to go into the Ogre Pond and actually tear a grass to revenge kill because you get the speed boost. They could have gone Tink here, but they don't want to let Tink take damage because it is kind of necessary into this team. So Tink now comes out, Revavroom comes in. You're going to see a very consequential miss here. Missing high horsepower is terrible for a couple reasons. One, you don't get damage and you get hit. But two, this Mandibuzz play from Scarf becomes so much easier here. Because if Sablo hits the high horsepower, you do 57 minimum, you're guaranteed two-shotting this. And he can't Terra, so it can't be dodged. But it makes a follow-up gunk shot potentially all the more impactful. I would say shift gear, but naturally you're not Okoing Mandibuzz with anything, and you're dying to foul play, like, still. We saw 43 here. Mandibuzz has stab, so it's doing 60, like 465. And had you hit the high horsepower, you can, like, you put pressure on Scarf, you get a little bit of momentum back. Here, you lost all the momentum. You allowed Scarf to very reliably make this Mandibuzz switch. Like, if you'd be able to hit high horsepower and then get a gunk on Mandibuzz, and then gunk it again, maybe, like, it's a lot lower. You potentially, again, it's just a matter of forcing more awkward lines for your opponent. Anyway, Cornerstone comes out. It ends up getting the KO there. Yeah, y'all knew what was happening here. Y'all knew exactly what was happening. And it Trailblazes up. This Trailblaze set's very devious, as this actually Helmet, which I've never seen before. And then Tinkta comes out. And this is also, again, where it matters. Because just think, I don't know if this mon has a ground move. They run Stomping Tantrum sometimes. But dude, just imagine if you had gotten to Chip earlier. Maybe Stomping Tantrum kills from this range. I don't know the calc off my top of my head. But a high roll, high horsepower from Revavroom into Stomping Tantrum from Ogre Pond? Yeah, it probably did just smoke Tinkaton. And from there, Cornerstone may have won. You would have had to go for like a speed tie with this as your best way of revenge killing. So all that to say, now Comfy comes out, and I think I probably disagree with this play, but at the same time, I don't want to keep saying it, but again, it comes back to the point of Tinkaton not getting hit. Because I don't think you Oko it with like a Terra Blast Fire at this point, or Ground, whichever one you have. I think it just lives. It's probably Ground, based on how some of these later turns go, by the way. Later turn is in this one right here, where Ogre Pond comes out. And they, I mean, if this just dies anyway to Ivy Cudgel, then yeah, that makes sense as well. No, it doesn't, because you would have Terra'd. If you're Terra Fire, you live after Draining Kiss Recovery, so. This definitely was Terra Blast Fire. Or not Fire, Ground. And like I was saying, though, you probably don't one-shot this because there's no chip. Terra Blast Fire Comfy, by the way, at the end, I think still would have won. Because you would have gone for your Terra on Ogre Pond after Draining Kissing. And you would have just two-shot this, and then this comes out and it gets hit super, super hard. And Ogre Pond just wins at the end, because you're gonna have, assuming this has Stomping Tantrum at least, but then you kill that and then Shocks dies too. All that to say, next game, HO, you got stomped. Now we get B versus PDT, and this is kind of funny too, because B is someone, or Bbeeaa, I don't know how to say your name, I'm sorry, dude. They're also a very well-known OUer playing UU, and they're facing PDT, who is one of the best UUers, maybe the best UUer right now. He's one of the best UUers in modern gens, I'd say. Arguably the best, and you could say he's the best right now. I think people would say they're PDT or Punny. Both of them are incredible players, and PDT's brought a pretty generic Volturn offense type team, where you got Zap, Ogre Pond, Latios, Scizor, all looking to just force in the Hoopa a lot, but Also, you know, Lottie and Scizor and even Ogerpon to an extent, they're no slouches their own with breaking. And then you got potentially Rock's Drill here, which I hate as a set. It could also just be no hazards or like no rocks and maybe just spikes on Ogerpon maybe. There's a couple angles you could take here. I think regardless, we know it's Volt turn. We're facing more HO. You know, one of the things I noticed at preview is that the Thunderous from B is pretty spooky. I think that mon comes in on quite a lot, not necessarily long term, but you just look at things that it soft checks on PDT's team. It does have, it has some clear routes to where you can get ins, opportunities to start breaking and forcing your damage, and just again having the momentum on in your favor. I also look at Zarude as another mon, and just yeah, Thunderous comes in on Zappy. Generically Drill, sure. It can kind of come in on Ogerpon, but that starts getting dicier, especially if there's like Bandit or something. And Zora as well, you can check. But Zarude looks great here too, because, I mean, there's no Dark Resist. So you can get on like Latios's Luster Purge, or Hoopa's, you know, Psych move, whatever one it has, whether it's regular Sidekick, whether it's like Zen Headbutt, whatever you got. Even the Dark moves you're able to check pretty well. The one caveat is Latios likes Soul Do a lot. Draco does a million. So it's still a risky one, because if you get any chip on you prior, you got to be really careful about not getting put into Draco range. But otherwise, it's not too bad. For PDT, what do I like about his team into their team? I mean, generically, again, it's Ogerpon into HO, so I'm always going to really favor this mon here. The speed boost is just always really clutch. And otherwise, I do think that he's got some pretty good answers to the sweepers. So like Zarude, for example. Zarude's annoying, but it's not like you can't answer it, right? Potentially Scarf Hoopa. You've got Ogerpon with Terra, so even if it's just a matter of using Terra to U-turn on it, right? If it's like Trailblaze SD, that's fine too. Zapdos checks it if it doesn't have Terra available. Zor can also check it potentially. You got answers there. Mimikyu, handled by Zor pretty comfortably. Even Drill can take a hit in a pinch, obviously, as well. You've got Mold Breaker to ignore Disguise if somehow that matters. Revavroom is potentially... Revavroom's probably like the scariest thing, if I'm being real with you, other than like maybe Zarude. Because Thunderous, it's annoying, but I don't think it's a game breaker. Just because I still... It's hard to explain why. I think a lot of it's just PDT's team has a lot of speed and means of offensively checking. I think Revavroom, Zarude are scary just because they're speed boosters. But Rumor, it's like, from preview, right? This one's like very scary, and you have to hope that you got Terra to check it. Maybe like a Terra stealing Zapdos, catching the Gunk Shot, and then killing back with Heat Wave. Or at least doing a lot of damage, because your boy's got Filter. Yeah, Filter not all that nonsense in life. And then Quavo's generically scary, but once again, I do feel like tearing the Ogerpon just contains a lot here. So we're going to see PDT lead with the Zor into the Thunderous, and as we said, Thunderous is really good at preview, handling a lot of potential Pokemon, and just getting turns to get some free chips. So you see it right there. Nice little free T-Wave. Not T-Wave, T-Bolt. And we see here a very curious play from B. Drake, and then going into Mimikyu, I think trying to catch another Drake, maybe respecting Scarf Latios a little too much here. Because they go this, but they get flipped on. So it's just the standard 3 attacks, recover, set, except when the attacks a flip. And like B says here, terrible, because you lost Disguise and you brought in Zord, the one mon you wanted to see the least, probably. So sucks for him. Quavo takes a ton there. I thought at first this was Banded Zor. We see here it's Metal Coat, but same idea. Big boosting item for your BP, as we're just going to get chip on this Quavo, and then you get a free turn to throw off a Luster Purge if you'd like. Does a million to Mimikyu. Flip turn actually probably just kills here too. So double Luster was probably a little greedy. And you see here, I mean, it does give Zarude an in. And as we talked about, this takes a lot from Drake, but at full, it's at least able to be a Latios check. And you get to kill it with the knock there. And it's even lefties too. So you don't just lose your mon here. Now, and we do lose it here, but... I think, again, just forcing chip onto Scizor is always okay, especially with how it contains... It doesn't really contain that much here at this point. It's just, it's got priority, and you'd rather have this mon as weak as possible so you don't have to deal with that bullshit. So Vroom comes out here, U-turn, because you're not killing with Cudgel here. And we see this is literally the full counter set too, unless it's Temper Flare. Based on the switch here from B, this is not a Temper Flare Revavroom. more often lately, they're dropping, I think, Iron Head, if I'm remembering what I've seen right. And they're going Temper Flare plus high horsepower, because the coverage is really good, and then you still have Gunk Shot last. But Driller comes out, throws off an EQ, because this was not Balloon. Lefties is kind of uncommon for what I've seen, but is what it is. Hoopa eats up that Focus Blast very nicely, will not die to a T-Bolt, so you get a KO here with the Psychic. If Zarude was still alive, that would have been really good for him there, but it wasn't. And then he tries to pick it off with an Accelerock, Terra Rock boosted, it does not work. Picks off another KO with Psychic, it may have been a damage roll. Hoopa will die to that T-Bolt, but at this point it's looking a little Jover. Still winnable for me, but the Excadrill popping off with the Terra Ghost to be immune to Nasty Ball out there. And it actually ends up getting the slide into, or to spin into slide KO there. You see 26, this is 3 times as strong, so pretty normal roll. And yeah, from this point it was probably a GG. No Terra available, so Vroom 1000% dies to the EQ, and I think even Quavo at 57. It doesn't even matter if it lives, right? Like, you're not Okoing, I don't believe, with knockoff. Even if you do Oko with knockoff, Ogerpon comes out, and I believe Ogerpon will do plenty of damage with Cudgel versus like this to where it won't matter. And I don't think it's going to be able to get past both Zap and Scizor without some like extreme luck. So HO not looking good. Can Viv, the newly promoted UU tier leader, find a way? Looking at this game, my immediate thought is a Skeledirge from Punny 6-0's the shit out of his team. But then I thought about it a little more, and I'm like, okay, technically it's not that simple, but also I'd love to see a world where Skeledirge does do that. So here's how it's going to work in my head at first, right? Skeledirge is going to Terra turn 1 and win. I think it's pretty fair for me to say that could have happened. The reality of it is not that simple. You look at Viv's team, everything on it threatens Skeledirge pre-Terra, so finding that turn to Terra is actually kind of tough. But also, you don't want to Terra turn 1 because you may not need to Terra the Dirge, right? No matter how good it looks, you don't want to just burn it immediately unless it's guaranteed winning you the game. You may end up needing something else to Terra because it's gonna give you more momentum than, say, sacking them on and then going Dirge and Terra and be like, oh, but look, I got the Dirge Terra now. And you also, I mean, well, technically we don't know what the Dirge's Terra is yet. From what I've seen, they can be poison, they can be fairy, they can be water. There's a good amount of them. I was looking at it from like, if this is Fairy Dirge, then yeah, I don't know how Viv ever wins. But you'll see, it's not Fairy. It was not Fairy. Anyhow, Donphan led with, and this is the funniest turn 1 I've seen in a while. So Bleak Wind, 2-shot. Good play here. Speed drop too. Yeah, get smashed. That crit did not matter, bro. The trusty Donnie P Okoing the Torn there was hilarious. And then you see a very sad roll. This mon living at 1. My guess is that's a damage roll, but at the same time, I'm choosing to believe it wasn't 1. If you're Viv there, though, you're very sad to see that live at 1. Cudgel into the Gligar there, because, I mean, look at Punny's team. Cudgel is always what you go for there. Is unfortunately, though, he chose to go Rack and then set up Webs. I think Webs here made no sense at all. And that's because, even at preview, and I guess I should have mentioned this, part of the issue for Viv's team is Web is just not that amazing. Okay, it's not that it's useless, because you have Dirge, and Dirge isn't that fast. The problem is, like, this is Boots a lot of the time. Gastro's already slow as hell, Impo's already slow as hell, and it might even be Boots. We've not gotten confirmation yet on its item. Dirge will be Boots. I just don't know what the point of the Webs are, really. I feel like not getting rid of Impo is just kind of, it's a little too greedy for my liking, because now you're going to see this one just roosts back up pretty much to full, because Viv isn't able to get defense drops early enough. So he gets all the way up to here, and I mean, he's not full, but dude's got his Impo back. And yeah, I mean, you could have KO'd it, but I don't know. I don't really think the Webs were ever worth it there. He does end up having Mirror Code as well for the Gastro, which is pretty cool. And you're going to see a Rat kind of just flail around for a while. It doesn't really do a ton because Gastro is just going to keep recovering. Eventually, Punny decides, you know what? I don't like recover spam, because it goes back to Impo. Pretty much at this point, too, you're just trying to outplay the Endeavors. Not even outplay them, but just make sure that you don't get run down by them. As the Gligar comes in, lives that knockoff with ease, and then here I see a play that it didn't really fully get. Sword Stance into die to U-turn when this had revealed you. My assumption was at the time that maybe this died to Leech Life, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, There is no damn way in hell that died to leech life. Like, if we go and look at our trusty calculator, we go to low kicks here, right? Good Pokemon, good Pokemon. We're gonna assume Silver Powder because that's the bug boosting thing, and we saw that the what's it called? The low kicks did not have Life Orb, so probably was bug. I don't even know if it's bug boost because we actually, you know what? What if this was something else? What if this was the SD Protect set? Because that would actually make sense then. I don't think SD still helps a ton, but yeah, you know, I get it then. If you're predicting a Gligar to set a hazard, you get the Swords Dance boost up, and then you're like black glasses. So there we go. Now you can calculate the black glasses plus 2 knock, and you do see that it was doing a lot. That is with an item on there, so you know we can get rid of that. But you do see if this was black glasses, knock. And that's assuming fully physically defensive. If Gligar didn't have all that bulk invest, maybe you were KOing at +2. It was at the minimum going to be a roll, though, right? Anyhow, Ogerbound comes out, tries to kill us with a Terra. It does not happen, though. And you get Trailblazed on and you die, so this isn't very good. A Rat comes out here. This is just to sacrifice it, but it's a Custap Rat, which I'll always support. Gligar gets sacked in its stead because you may as well keep Ursaroot around. At the very least, you at least forced it out, so it didn't have the speed boost from Trailblaze. It's not gonna matter. Azu comes in, you know, saying, hey, you don't kill me with Trailblaze here, and Punny says, yeah, you're right. So he switches. Sacks that, and this is where, I think here, this is the break point of the match. I think if you're Viv, you have one play here, and that play is probably have to switch Dirge in. Although it's not a good play. It's not a play I want to make because I'm gonna be real. So the Wisp comes out. I don't after well Terra comes out in the Wisp, right? I don't know that this is necessarily a guarantee. I think you at a minimum they could go for their Terra, but then go for like Hex. And if Dirge comes in on that, it's probably just Wraps. Like still? Like I don't really know if this can win. Because you're not gonna one-shot, and you still have to contend with, like, full health Gastrodon at that point. Mr. Sludge Bombamus Prime. It's a little tricky. I still think you probably had to go Dirge. Hope to catch a Wisp there. Because with Punny not having burned Terra, and how we talked at the start, right? Like, Terra Dirge might just 6-0. I think you have to expect this to go for the Terra Wisp here just to make sure Azu isn't a problem. At a minimum, a Terra I think is expected, and I do believe that Viv's just unable to guarantee that this is not going for Hex instead. So Azu gets burned, you see it flail around for a while. Here you see the switch though, because you do not want Viv to like go Dirge, right? You do not want this mon coming out and then getting turns to boost. There's a world where Dirge could not necessarily win, but potentially threaten something. So this does live the Jet very easily too. And you see Trailblaze into knock. This was Throat Spray. It was a Flame Charge Throat Spray with a Torch Song, Shadow Ball, and then Earth Power probably, or probably Alluring Voice actually. Yeah, for now Alluring Voice. In the new meta, you'd have to have Earth Power though. But yeah, I think it's an awkward turn with the Dirge, but I do believe you have to try and get it on the Wisp. From there, I don't even know if it means you win, though, right? Because the annoying thing is you need the speed boost to outrun Zarude, but you gotta try and kill Dirge in 2, probably, and it has Unaware, so you can't really make use of your Throat Spray boost like you want. So it's definitely tricky, it's tricky. I don't think it was like a simple win there for Viv if he just makes this one play or anything. It's just, yeah. I think that gave him a little bit better of a line. So now, HO 0-3. Franco, can you save it? He's facing Liss, who I don't know a ton about because I don't know the UU player base well. But Liss is a very frequent UU poster from what I've seen. Franco, I also know nothing about, but he's brought webs with a Rabombi and a Manaphy, so I will support this team in its endeavors. And this is one of the funniest games I think we're covering in this video, so I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna talk to you about, I don't know, man. Rabombi, a Pokemon I appreciate. You know what would be cool it would be if this mon did come back to any of this gen? It'd be very cool. And as you see Rabombi doing I'll talk about the games. Rabombi's just doing normal doing normal webs Rabombi stuff. It sets up dual screens, it sets up webs, and it switches eventually. Or sacks itself. It just depends on how you feel that given day. So the Manaphy now goes for Terra, not Terra, Tailglow. Sorry, sounds similar. Its Tailglow's up though. Hoopa has the audacity to leave a luring voice at 1, but this knockoff is not it doesn't do anything. And you're about to see Manaphy just win. So Zarude comes out here. They do double into the Gastrodonus. I think trying to scout out for Terra there probably. This just means Gastrodon gets 2-shot on the switch though. Cobalion will now be coming out and getting 1-shot from that range. The crit does not matter. That's +3 Manaphy, friend. Gardevoir will now come out. This mon is just not stopping anything. You died to a Surf. Zapdos, you aren't stopping anything. You died to a Surf. And then, Zarude, he comes back. They go for the Terra Poison here with the Sword Stance. I don't know if they had an out here, but this is probably their best way of trying to do something. Unfortunately, you see Trailblaze only doing 49, even with a crit that wasn't killing. That, unless it was like a really low roll or something, and then they got like a high roll crit, maybe somehow Zarude could have pulled it out. But it's pretty unlikely. So as you see at the very end, Hyper Offense finally getting a win. And it was courtesy of Manaphy. Which, again, I just kind of thought this video was very funny for seeing all the HO brought this week and then watching it, for the most part, just get run down. Not even run down necessarily, but just losing, right? Like, this, for all intents and purposes, was a pretty close game. This one was, okay, a bit of a stomp. This one, though, was really close, too. Scarf was maybe, if Tink got hit by the high horsepower, maybe then Sablo's got... I would actually say Sablo's got winning odds at that point. But I hope y'all enjoyed. Hopefully tomorrow you get a regular PS Live video, but we'll see. It all depends on how the day goes. Thanks all though for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.